Hey, Industrial Talk is brought to you by CAP Logistics. You want to minimize downtime? Absolutely. Increase reliability? You bet. Ensure operational profitability? Yes, you do. That means you need 24/7, 365 insights into your supply chain. Look no further. CAP Logistics. Go to caplogistics.com or just call them. They're great people. 800-227-2471. Also, AI-. AI- is on a mission to create a greener, cleaner, safer planet from space. AI- helps core industries become more resilient, efficient, and sustainable through the power of satellites and AI. Go out to AI-.com. Find out more.
Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, once again, welcome to Industrial Talk, the number one industrial-related podcast in the universe. Patricia, I'm not. That's factual, by the way. It's all driven by data. That's why I'm a number one podcast in the world.
Cool. Okay.
It's all hype. And this is where we celebrate industry professionals from all around the world, because you are bold, you are brave, you dare greatly, you solve problems, you innovate like nobody's business, and you're changing lives, and therefore you are changing the world each and every day. Why not celebrate? As you can tell by the buzz in the background, we are broadcasting live from DistribuTECH 2022. An incredible venue. Put this on your bucket list because there are a lot of great professionals roaming around here. Again, solving problems. It's a great venue. I like it. All right, in the hot seat, Patricia. Say your last name, Patricia, please.
Seifert.
Seifert.
Yes.
Did I get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
She's in the hot seat. Eaton is the company. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I am so thankful that you are so flexible to just pop on the podcast because you're a busy person.
We are busy at Eaton, and luckily we are. I mean, everything changes at the moment in the utility industry. I mean, when I talked to my son about 10 years ago, he was not like, Mom, you're not really cool industry. But now I'm cool. I'm a cool mom now, so that's good. I mean, the energy industry becomes really interesting also for the younger generation. They think about, global warming, the impact, how much energy should they use, what is the future, renewables. We have just installed solar, so they're excited, and we have a battery at home, so all of that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You have a solar and battery
yes.
solution at your house.
I'm in the PSPS zone, so public safety power shut-off. And I got shut off multiple times last year, so I'm at a point where I want to survive at home.
What do you mean? You're out of California.
Yes, exactly.
I'm telling you, I don't know how to process this, that the utilities have to shut off power. Growing up in the utility, my dad was with Southern California, I was a lineman, and that conversation never happened. Oh, never. And now it's like, this is how we manage, this is what we do, this is the expectations. It's just bizarre. Do you think that we'll ever get to a point where, we're transitioning, and it's all, pretty dynamic out there, but shutting down power is just an interesting challenge. It's just
as a customer, you're absolutely not happy, especially when your sewer system, or I have a sewer pump, doesn't work.
Yes.
You feel like, you're in a third world country, really. So, yes, it's frustrating. But I understand. We had horrible fires in California. I think some of the utility maybe have not invested enough. And that's me as a customer speaking,
right?
Not as Eaton. But if it's the trade-off, not having electricity or your house burning down, I will always take not having electricity over.
Oh that makes sense, definitely. But but what I do hear, there are people talking, companies like yours and others, talking about solutions on how to transition into this new thing. It's happening so fast, but they're starting to think through that.
There are definitely analytics. You can measure it in different ways, but One of the analytics I worked on was looking at momentary outages. Momentary outages is when a branch hits a line or something like that.
Relays,
Yeah,
tests,
exactly.
refires.
And so you can begin to measure those and say, hey, where does it happen along the network? And when you know where it happens, you can begin to more effectively cut your bushes and trees and everything
Yeah,
out there.
you start talking about vegetation management,
Yes,
but the
exactly.
reality is, you're right. If you are tracking these interruptions, then you can also pull in some weather. You can pull in various sources of data to create that picture of, say,
Yes.
get a tree crew out there.
And measure it, cut it early, and vegetation management is one of the most expensive
It is.
costs the utility
And
has.
it's part of that whole delivery of service, and it's constantly having issues, and it's expensive, and everybody's trying to figure out a best way to do that.
Exactly. And there are many ways. I mean, momentary outages is one. Putting sensors out there to measure these all outages and impedancy. That's really a way to do it, and I think that's something we have to do. Otherwise, you have to underground everything, which is also very, very expensive.
Yeah, you can't do that
Yeah.
too, because then you have all the other. Can I underground here? Do I have to get the easement? What do I do here? How do I do? There's just so many other things, and that's not going to happen overnight.
No, and then monitoring those again, you don't see it anymore.
No, you don't.
You do need more equipment in the field to monitor those lines to make sure what you don't see, you still have some insights into it. And that is, again, analytics, and I think analytics is really where we're going with the utility industry.
I think you're spot on, and I think what I'm hearing loud and clear at this event is that utilities, and let's just be honest, utilities are the ones that are really driving. They're the ones, right? They're the ones that have this obligation to serve their territory. Therefore, how do we do it most effectively? They've got, pressures on it, so they're going to drive this adoption and this going forward. But what I do hear is that there are a lot of arrows in their quiver to be able to provide that insights, data analytics, all of the stuff that is necessary to make sound decisions, tactical decisions.
Exactly, and especially people like me, suddenly we say, I want to have my own electricity, and if I have too much, I will give it back to the network. And that's a challenge for utilities too.
Oh.
And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. They all think it's the customer. The customer is very, very important. But having the distribution network really up and running, it's a major challenge.
Again, I'm sort of old school when I say this. When I went to the system operators for watching the system and seeing how they manage that, it was a challenge back when you had the centralized generation, and now it's all distributed, and you have a battery, they have a battery, and be able to do it in such a way that makes sense and effective. I don't know how they do it.
And interesting with analytics too, you see that EVs and solar, it's clustering. So it's really, my neighbor has solar. They had an EV. Let's get an EV. Let's get solar.
Right.
Maybe they talk to each other and they find out, that's really cool. Let's have it too.
Right.
And so you have these clusters, and that makes it difficult for the utility too.
Yeah.
Because suddenly an EV can use as much as your whole house on electricity. But the transformer was not laid out for that.
The infrastructure's not there.
Exactly.
It's like, now what do we do?
And that suddenly it doubles your electricity consumption. So how do you build a network that it holds up, that you're aware of it, what's happening out in the field? And solar, very often you have to mention to the utility and you have to get a permit. For EV, not. I can just plug it in. So,
You do. It's just like, there we go. So let's talk a little bit about BrightLayer. What is that?
BrightLayer is really our digital solution, looking really at what we just talked about. Collecting the data, mainly on the distribution network, collecting the data, looking at the data, and making informed decision for the utility, help them. Where, we have one planning tool, and where do you want to put your solar installation, your wind installation? What will be the impact on your network? Information like that.
Wow.
So that really helps you to figure out what will be the impact and where do you want to put additional resources in there. Or if you want to build an extra neighborhood, what will be the impact on the distribution network? How do I have to build it up? What kind of cable do I need? What kind of transformers do I need?
Do you also speculate or look out into the future too and saying, hey, this is a growing community, therefore you don't need you need 954 wire, you need whatever, you need a bigger capacity because it's going to expand.
Exactly. Forecasting is another interesting thing. So you have to forecast, you do a load analysis, thinking through what will be the future load you need. Then you can put in the planning model, and then you can calculate what is the infrastructure and where do I best put it in without have the least impact on changing your infrastructure out in the field.
So you have this platform. Do I put in historical data within a community? Does it learn? Is there an AI analytics component or what? So I have to put data in to get some sort of information out.
Yes.
Take us through that process.
So normally, there are different ways to do analytics. One is you really test the model. You get data, historical data, to look what could be the future. That's really testing and informing the model. There is another way to just give the data and say, hey, where are the outliers? So let's say put pictures of ducks and cats in there, and the system will say, oh, these are two-legged, these are four-legged, they look the same, but they will not say, this is a duck, this is a cat. But when you do really train the model, you say, this is a duck, this is a cat, and it will find the ducks and cats and label it, this is a duck, this is a cat.
Right.
So there are different ways to do machine learning.
Yeah, because here's an interesting, you know as well as I do, utilities, there's been that sort of singular focus, and the singular focus is deliver power at the least possible cost for the consumer. Mm-hmm. It's sort of pretty simple, and it makes sense, reliably, right? Don't interrupt, things like that. So that's pretty simple, and and your decisions all revolve around that from a utility perspective. Do you find that utilities, as this journey begins, and it's fast, it's just oddly fast, able to sort of do it, be nimble enough, sort of retain that same sort of thinking, but do you find that, are you getting good data to be able to do what you need to do? It's sort of interesting.
We looked at, consumption, to predict consumption, how also with, COVID consumption changed quite a bit because people begin to work at home, and suddenly the whole consumption pattern changed. And so, you need weather data to predict what will be the consumption. And these models change over time. Like 2 years ago in California, we had these huge fires. Yep. And suddenly we had all this smoke in the air, and a lot of the solar didn't work anymore because we almost had a nuclear winter. It got colder, and the solar didn't work. And so then we had to change our model again and say, oh, we have to take this parameter also into consideration. Right. So and analytics is not just done. The environment changes, and you have to adjust to that.
But those are statistical outliers. You can, although you have to model it, is it going to happen again? Or do you see this?
But you can. You see, okay, in Napa Valley you have a fire, you know how the wind goes, so you can make some assumptions, say, yes, it could come in this direction, what would be the impact? Sure, you have an error of 20%, something like that, but still, there is some certainty what could happen, and some forecasting you can do.
So you run simulations too?
Absolutely,
It's like, okay, here, well, let's use this and this, what does that look like? Okay, let's change this parameter, that parameter, let's see what it looks like.
Absolutely, yeah. For our whole SIME software, it's all about planning. It's what-if model. What if I put it here? What if I do that? Yes, exactly. So that you make the best decision you can with the least cost.
So let's say I'm a utility, and I'm interested in having this type of data visibility. So I contact Eaton. Then he says, yep, got it, we can do something, we see it, we have the... How long does it take for you to deploy a system like this? I'm sure it evolves, it sort of grows and learns and does what it needs to do. But just from a baseline perspective, being able to generate real information that helps them make tactical decisions.
That's not an easy question because very often we need that historical data to train the model. And very often is how fast can the utility provide it? How often can they get people to get that data, gather that data? And then we have to cleanse the data first, and then analyze it. And very often we really work together for a proof of concept or something in the beginning to really, do we solve their pain points? Do we measure the right stuff? I would say somewhere between 3 to 9 months, depending on how big the project is and how fast we can get it.
And what I hear is there's a human component, and if they had a major focus on saying, okay, let's get the data, they're asking for this, whatever it is.
Then we can do it much faster.
That's exactly correct. And it's always, but this, and then I have to do that, and then there's a but you bring up an interesting point, that there's that necessity to scrub that data.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get the data and suddenly think, why is that data like that? And then you go back and say, I had one example where we measured phases, and one was 0 to 360, and suddenly we had a minus 180. And it's like, what is that? And they said, oh, we have meters that measure plus 180, minus 180, not 0 to 360. So, a simple case, but if you don't know that, you think a negative value, what's wrong here? But it's just a different meter, and so you have to normalize and clean the data.
and again, that's on a case-by-case basis, most definitely, because we've all been there.
Yeah. And there are still some very old meters out there as well, or infrastructure.
Yes. And each utility is different. Each service territory is different. Everything is different.
Correct. And
construction standards, wiring, you name it, it's different.
And some devices don't give data, and some give data. So do you also have often to estimate stuff?
God.
If I don't get data here, what is the estimation? What is the best estimation I can do?
I hear job security in that one because it never ends.
It will never end. I think, that people think they will be out of a job. No, I think it will just be more interesting jobs.
Yes, that is spot on. All right, how do they get a hold of you, Patricia? They're saying that she is talking my talk. How do I get a hold of you?
Just reach me at Patty Seifert at Eaton.com.
Easy peasy. All right, listeners, we're going to have all the contact information for Patricia out there on industrialtalk.com. Once again, we're broadcasting from DistribuTECH 22 here in Dallas. Excellent, like Patricia's professionals, all like her, right there. Enjoy. Thank you very much for joining, and we will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, once again, thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk and definitely your support. We truly appreciate it, and it is a platform. Industrial Talk is a platform that celebrates you industrial professionals all around the world. You're making the world wonderful, and that's why we want to celebrate you. Patty, the interview, no different. She's passionate. She knows exactly what's going on. She is a thought and industry leader right there with Eaton. Reach out to her. Contact information at Industrial Talk. So you've got to be about educating and collaborating and innovating. I think events like DistribuTECH and others is a wonderful opportunity to be able to collaborate with people who just continuously think through these challenges and what are the innovative solutions to be able to solve those problems. And you're just going to have to be connected. So, and you're always going to have to learn. So reach out to Patty, Team Eaton, doing marvelous things for the utility space because it is changing in a big way. All right, be bold, be brave, dare greatly. And you're just, you hang out with people like Patty and you're going to change the world. Thank you very much for what you do. And we're always here. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, you know where to go. IndustrialTalk.com. Reach out and just let's have a conversation. All right, we're going to have another great conversation from DistribuTECH shortly, so stay tuned.